Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Mars October Rant series. Today, I just wanted to make a rant about, I've talked about arguing before and how it's pointless, but I wanted to talk about, some reasons why I think arguing is pointless. And, just breaking it down more and explaining, why I think it's pretty much pointless, even though I still continue to do it sometimes. Still trying to find reasons to not do it, but, still engaging in it sometimes. So, one of the biggest reasons why I do not argue anymore or try not to argue anymore is because usually, regardless of what you're saying, the other person is going to have their own opinion regardless of what you say. It doesn't matter the facts that you're presenting. It doesn't matter if, you could be looking at the particular situation, in a very understanding manner, but using facts and logic and, arguing like a lawyer. Lawyers bring the facts, they bring the evidence, they try to be as logical as possible. And that's usually how an argument is usually best won. And you can go into it and you can use logic, facts, reason. But if someone else has something in their head or they think that what they're saying is correct, they're not really going to care about facts and logic. You can say whatever comes to your mind to try to get them to agree with what you're saying, and it's simply not going to work because when someone has their own mind made up, it doesn't matter what you say. They're not going to believe you. So it's best, just to be right in your own head, knowing that, maybe this person doesn't agree with what I'm saying, but being right to yourself is way better than being right to other people because, sometimes, like I said, sometimes they're not going to agree with you and, they're going to think that you're not right. So, but just because they don't want to accept the truth of the situation, it doesn't mean that you're wrong, And that's just something that people need to understand is that you can have all the facts and the evidence and you could beat someone over the head with what really happened and make total sense, bring facts, and they'll just shit all over you. They'll think that you're lying. They'll think that you're being unreasonable. They'll think you're crazy. They'll call you names. They'll throw ad hominems at you. They'll attack random things about your character. They'll bring up other incidents that you had with them if you have a history with stuff. If your friends, family does this, everyone does this that's related and friends. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't argue anymore, especially if it's not an important argument that's happening. If you're arguing with somebody and, it's over something very minuscule and not important, like who ate the last cookie or who ate the last fudge pop or did you drink the last of the soda I had in the fridge or whatever it is. If they're trying to throw something out at you to argue with them about, if you just ignore it, then eventually they're just going to say whatever and just move on and just stop talking about it. But within like the first minute, they're probably going to throw out a lot of different things that are going to start a potential argument. And it's up to me and it's up to everyone listening to not fall for that trap. Because the first minute, just like with anger, like the first 30 seconds to a minute of anger is the worst. And if you can hold out and hold on to that and not explode, then it gets better. You just have to take deep breaths and count to 10 and just wait. Think about it in a couple of minutes after that. And I bet you're going to come out with a more clear head, because people like to act in the moment when things happen. Like they react so quick, that they don't really think about what they're saying when they're saying it. They just say it so fast, and it's susta. That's what's great about these recordings, is that you can mess up words in the middle of a good saying, or a good point you're trying to make, but it happens so quick, and you say things so fast, and you make such a hasty decision, and then you look back and you're wondering why you made that decision, because you're like, I was just so angry at the time, and I was just so upset, and I said something so quick, and I really didn't think about what I was saying before I said it. And then that can cause even more problems than the initial problem that you were arguing about. One thing that my mother would like to do to me is she would like to bring up past incidences that had nothing to do with the situation, or she'll bring up other parts of my life that she knows I'm insecure about. Like, say we're arguing about, who did something or didn't clean up a mess or whatever, and she would bring up the fact that I didn't have a job, or bring up other facts about my life to try to hurt me because she's aggravated, and it was just a very toxic situation. And she would always be the first one, and this is, a lot of people do this, it's not just one person, or a lot of people in my life have done this. I just used her as an example, but they try to use certain circumstances to bring up as like some type of like attack on you, when usually what they're bringing up usually has like no relevance to what you're even talking about at the time. And it just makes them look insecure, and it makes them look very petty, trying to come up with things to argue with because they really have nothing else to say. So if someone really has to bring up like the past, or your past, or the past in general, and they have to use past incidences against you that really have nothing to do with what you're talking about at the time, then it really just lets you know that you already won the argument. And it really lets you know that they're not rational, they're not an adult, they're very childish, and they don't have the capacity to have a rational debate or argument or whatever it is. And debating and arguing can be fine as long as it's healthy and it's not, angry. And, like in that point, it's not really even an argument. It's just a debate, or just a healthy discussion. And sometimes people like to think things are an argument because you're having disagreements. But just because you're having a conversation and you're disagreeing with one another, I wouldn't say particularly that that is an argument. That's just two people who disagree with one another on topics. And, you're not going to agree on everything. So going into any conversation or any circumstance hoping, that you agree on everything, not very logical, because not everyone thinks the same. And there's going to be some things in this world, that you disagree with. And if you just see everyone in the world that disagrees with you as your enemy, you're going to miss out on, the other 55 things that they agree on you with, That's what makes it interesting, is finding out what people agree on. But anyways, so that's pretty much my best tactic now when people try to argue with me in general, because people in public try to start things with me sometimes. And if you just don't respond, if you don't answer, it really is the best tool. Just keeping quiet, or just saying things to diffuse it, like let's say okay or whatever, just not trying to fight back, and because you just make it worse. And like when you do that, you really have to ask yourself, what am I fighting for? what am I trying to do by fighting back? Like you're not going to do anything that's going to help the situation. So really think about that. I've been thinking about it, and I'm really trying hard not to react really quick and say things. Recently I've done it, but every time I do it, sometimes I do it just for fun, and I know that I'm just having a fun time and I'm just passing time because, when you have family that fights all the time and, like you can't, like, obviously you can divorce your family, but some people live with their family and see them all the time. Like, you can't, like it's just like, it's not something that you can avoid, Eventually you're going to have to see them, and you're going to have to put up with that if that's what your family dynamic is like. And, just ignoring them or not really engaging in the conversation or refusing to answer, that's the best way to stop it, because an argument is like a metaphorical fire. And if you throw more gasoline on it by saying things back, it's just going to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and worse and worse. But if you just stop throwing gasoline on it, eventually the wind's going to come along or something's going to happen naturally to put the fire out. And that's what you want to do. You want to put fires out. You don't want to keep them sparking, keep them flaming, because eventually it's just going to burn everything down, and that's not very productive. So it's just something that I wanted to get out there, and I want people to really think about. It's really hard sometimes not to say things back, but it's not a very productive thing to do. And I'm trying my best not to do that anymore, like I said, even though it's very difficult for me. There's always another day, like you'll have an argument with somebody, and then the next couple of days after that, some people like act like it never happened, and like you go back to being normal and stuff like that. But no, the older I get, I'm just trying to keep the peace, and with some people when they argue, that's also something I wanted to say, because I said I wanted to give a few points, but I'll just keep it short with 2 points because this video is already long enough. But I'll leave this as the last point and then finish this video up. But the second point I wanted to talk about is when you're arguing with people, they'll claim that they know you. Like, they'll say things and bring up facts that they think that are facts when they're not facts, and they think that they really know stuff about you. But as you listen to them, you realize that they have absolutely no clue with what they're speaking of or what they're talking about towards you. And I'm not just going to sit there and try to play fact checking with them and go through everything they're saying and explain why they're wrong when they're already convinced in their own mind that they're correct. So that's really a waste of my time, and I don't think that that's a very productive thing to do, because, why would you in the first place want to argue with somebody who thinks that they know you when they really don't? Like, everything about you that they say, like, I guess, like, it's just, I don't get it. Like, everything about you that they say is wrong, so they're already getting off on the wrong foot. So nothing they say is gonna be right at that point. They're just, some people argue in good faith, and some people argue in bad faith. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference when someone's trying to argue because they really feel passionate and they want to get to the bottom of something, and they're trying to, understand. And it kind of turns into an argument where they're not trying to argue, but they're just trying to do what they can to get the answers. And there's other people that just start fights. They start things. They're extremely disrespectful. They accuse you of things that aren't true. And they just try to come at you because they get some type of like fun out of it. It's like a blood sport for them. And, it's just not really worth engaging those fucking people. So that's it for now. Thank you for listening, and I'll try to make more videos. This is the Morris October Rant series, signing out.